Hi, my dearest family. Today we are going to be talking about the upcoming triple conjunction. And that triple conjunction is going to be happening between Mercury, the Sun, and Ceres. And this is a significant conjunction. The reason being is because Mercury conjunction to the Sun is always going to be describing approximately a good 4 months ahead of our time, what this might be all about. And I'm going to be breaking this down for all 12 signs as well. But of course, Ceres is playing a role here as well. Now, it's all on 23 degree of Taurus. So this is somehow a manifestation point in your chart. So do let me know if you have got any planets on 23 degree of the fixed signs, which are Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Basically, in this triple conjunction, the Sun provides the will, pretty much the what. Mercury provides the logistics, pretty much the how. And Ceres provides the nourishment. So it's getting anchored in the sign of Taurus. So this is not an abstract idea. It is about the tangible solidification of a resource, a business model, or a sustainable practice. So when these three bodies align in Taurus, the energy is focused on the stewardship of value. The sun, which also represents our identity and focus, the sun always wants to shine, but this time around, it wants to shine through tangible production. And Mercury has got the need to communicate. So Mercury wants to communicate the plan, the values. It's thinking about money, and Ceres wants to make sure the long-term viability of that project. So, because it's in the sign of Taurus, the communication is grounded, deliberate, and slow moving. It isn't necessarily interested in kind of like viral speed. It is interested in structural integrity. Now, I did break this down for all 12 signs, or I touched base on them separately in my previous weekly forecast. So you might want to be listening to that. But I decided to make this video separate. And here I'm going to give you a very short description for all 12 signs as well. Because of course, this Mercury Sun conjunction is really potent. So, Sun at 23 degree Taurus, that's the central pivot point. So focus is directed towards what is physically real, what provides comfort, what offers security. And then, of course, Mercury. Mercury is working extremely hard to build a mode for it so that we can reach our targets. And these are not dreams. We are already giving a blueprint to it. So this Mercury is focusing on practical steps. It is doing the financial logistics. It is looking at tested ways of making the plan get going. It's kind of looking at what works pretty well. And then Ceres is the archetype of the provider. So Ceres demands that we don't just create, but nurture what we create. It looks at whether it's sustainable. Does this feed the future? Is it going to be producing certain type of a growth, let's say in 5 years' time? Because Taurus never kind of thinks about just the present. It always thinks about the future as well. So we've got an idea, and then we make it as an asset. So it's about you articulating your value, and Ceres ensures that what you articulate has got kind of like a long-lasting shelf life, basically. But it's also an ideal time to review your existing assets as well. Like, what is growing? What needs more pruning to survive the season? Do I want to sell it? Do I need to keep it? What do I hold on to? Like all those negative way of thinking, what do we feed the mind with? Because Ceres is pretty much the food archetype as well. So, if you are, for example, a content creator, then it's also very good for offering, for example, a content to your audience. But maybe with this, you want to avoid get rich quick kind of like themes, you are building something to last. So your message should be also including somehow the due endurance of it. If you are launching, let's say, a course or a membership update during this transit, just ensure your technical system, like payment, access, structure, are very robust. Taurus demands that that vessel of your work is as strong as the content itself. And Ceres is there as a reminder that growth requires patience. Don't rush the harvest. You can really use this Mercury Sun alignment to plan that long-term care. For example, for your project, for your community, you would need to be looking at where it falls into your natal chart. So, by the way, this is a superior conjunction between Mercury and the Sun. So we've got two types of conjunction. We've got the inferior conjunction and the superior conjunction. The inferior conjunction is basically the rebirth of Mercury. That's a new Mercury. That occurs when Mercury is a retrograde and positioned between the Earth and the Sun. So astronomically, this is the start of a new synodic cycle. And it kind of corresponds with like a new moon phase. But we know that Mercury is right now in direct motion. So this is a superior conjunction. And this is kind of like a full moon phase of Mercury. So the Mercury cycle lasts, by the way, approximately around 116 days. And just like the moon, it can have approximately 8 phases. Well, with Mercury, we distinguish 6 phases anyway. But a superior conjunction is when Mercury is direct and positions on the far side of the sun relative to the Earth. So this is basically the midpoint of a cycle, something that started with the inferior conjunction between the sun and Mercury. Okay, so that's important to also remember. So, the very recent inferior conjunction, so basically the new Mercury moment, happened around March 7th, 2026. And on top of my head, it happened around 16 degree of Pisces. So think of this Mercury Sun cycle as kind of like a breathing pattern. So the inferior conjunction is the inhale. So you take in the new data, the seed idea, the initial spark. And then the superior conjunction is kind of like the exhale. So you are expressing that idea. You have matured something. It's kind of like the demonstration. It's kind of like the harvest period of that. So I highly recommend also looking at 16 degree of the mutable signs in your chart if you've got any planets there, because then potentially this is a period of time when you are going to kind of like, for example, you started something around that time, and then this could be a payoff moment. So now, so look back to that March 7th period. Try to recall where you were, what you were doing around March 7. Did a new idea regarding resources, money, or even stability pop into your head? Because that was the seeding moment there. And now it is being translated into that Taurus language of implementation. So let me just give you an idea. For example, Sun Mercury new cycle started on my Mars, which is the ruler of my second house and the ruler of my ninth house. So from a ninth house point of view, I decided to relocate around that time. But I haven't done it yet. I decided that I would move approximately mid-April, late April. Obviously, it hasn't happened yet. So now it looks like it's going to happen. So that's exactly how you can be looking at this, because Taurus is about, Pisces was about having a dream, and then right now it's all about you making it happen. Now, it's good to be looking at this period of cycle, right, from a Pisces and Taurus lens point of view, because with Pisces, we have a dream, and then Taurus kind of like manifests that. So it's a kind of like a transition from Pisces to a Taurus period. So Pisces gives you the vision, and the Taurus is very much the vessel. So we are moving kind of like from this fluid, kind of mutable nature of Pisces into that fixed earthy nature of Taurus. So, the challenge is avoiding calcification. So becoming so focused on the form that you lose the spirit of the original dream. So in the synodic cycle of Mercury, we move through different elements to test our ideas. So the Pisces phase, which happened in March, was about what if? So we had that dream, and the Taurus phase is about what is. So with Pisces phase, we had the intuition, and that was the seed, right? We had a intuition, a thought. And the Taurus phase is about instructions, kind of creating the manual there. Or Pisces is about surrender. And then the Taurus is about strategy. With Pisces, we looked at the potentiality of something, and then Taurus is about the profits. So, for example, again, this new cycle started on my second house ruler, and I might have started something financially there. Then this could be, for example, the profit, or maybe having to walk away from things. So, Taurus is a fixed sign. It provides stability, but the shadow side is resistant to change. It's a very stubborn sign. Pisces is a mutable sign, so it provides adaptability, but the shadow side is losing track of reality. So the problem is that Taurus wants to hold on to the way hold on to the way things are. It fears changes because it values security. So therefore, if that's the case with you, you have to bring the Pisces cusp into the reading, bringing the Pisces awareness into that Taurus work. Remember that the original dream was fluid. So if you are being too stubborn about your current strategy, you are stifling the very dream that inspired you in March. So this is, of course, about build to last, but I remain flexible enough to evolve. Um, it's kind of like the dream that has to hit the ground. So we started this cycle in March with a vision. It was ethereal, intuitive, potentially wide open. We had that kind of idea or like intuition, this is where I want to be. But now we move into that current Mercury Sun alignment in Taurus, so that vision is hitting the ground. It's the phase of realization. Like I said, the trap is stubbornness. So in our pursuit of making things real and stable, often, unfortunately, accidentally or subconsciously, but we freeze our ideas in stone. We fall in love with the plan rather than the purpose. So am I holding on or am I building? That could be a question there. Remember, building is active. Holding on is something defensive. So if you are protecting a project from feedback or change, then you aren't building, you are hoarding. And that's a Taurus keyword as well. Ask yourself whether your structure is flexible, because a true foundation isn't rigid. A foundation that doesn't bend, that breaks. So can your strategy adapt to new data, or are you forcing it to match, the March blueprint? Or if the fruit you are producing now feels a bit heavy or lifeless or kind of purely transactional, then look back to your March intention. What was the feeling you wanted to create? And re-inject that emotion into your current system. So I hope it makes sense how this is kind of like a transition from Pisces to Taurus. But what's very interesting is that we have got a huge planetary cluster happening in the sign of Aries. And Aries is, of course, in the middle of those two signs. So, on one hand, it kind of feels like with Aries that it's all about action and initiation. Um, it's about bravery. It's the sign of Aries is about the self. And it's a bit too crowded there, right? So imagine that as having too many voices in one room, and everyone is shouting, "Me, now, start." So what really happens is that you have got a dream and then you want to make things happen, but all those voices in the room kind of like I cannot think clearly. So that's the danger of having these kind of like transitional periods because you don't know what to pay attention to. Of course, in Aries, we've got Mars, that's the accelerator, that's the fuel. We've got Saturn, that's the brake, that's the restriction. We've got Neptune, that's a bit of a smoke, the confusion, the idealism. Then we've got uh, obviously, Pallas Athene, Vesta, Chiron, and other type of planetary energies as well. So when all of these operate in the same sign, you kind of get that speeding while standing still. So you have the accelerator, Mars, pressed, but the brake, is engaged. The vision is obscured by the friction. So that's why it's so important that you don't rush into things. But it's also important that you are moving towards the vision that you kind of like planted the seeds with back in March, and then you start acting on it. But of course, I'm going to be doing this with patience. So I hope that makes sense. It's a very brief interpretation of that new cycle. Like I said, each Mercury cycle lasts approximately about 116 days. Um, so we are in the middle of that. Now let's talk about each rising sign. So Aries rising sign. So maybe you have felt like, in the last few weeks were a bit of a chaotic battlefield. You might have spent April with a massive cluster of, well, you spent April with a massive cluster of planets in Aries. So things could have got loud, fast, or even exhausting. Now, today we are shifting gears. We are moving from that Aries type of energy into more of a construction. Things should slow down. It shouldn't be that frantic, like the go, go, go energy. And you are entering a time where you need to build, sustain, or make your efforts pay off. Now, because this is a fixed earth energy, it's practical, but it has a shadow side, and that's stubbornness. So you might feel a resistance to changing your current strategy, even if it's not working. So don't hold on to things because it's valuable or because I'm afraid of what happens if I let go. Of course, this conjunction, triple conjunction, happens in your second house, the house of finances. So all connected to foundations, finances, and it might even tell you to become more somehow creative. But are you keeping your creativity kind of like in a prison? So your homework is that take one project, one financial goal, or one health routine that felt like a good idea back in early March, but don't just dream about it. Systemize it. Create a checklist, set the budget, or clear the space for it to exist. And stop doing and start building, really. So thanks for watching, Aries, and let's just keep those foundations strong. Um, but Aries, for you, this conjunction lands in your house of personal resources. So this is about value, not just money, but self-worth as well. That Aries chaos probably drained your reserves, and now you need to audit your bank account and your energy levels. What is actually producing a return? What is just costing you? And it might be telling you to stop spending money on the wrong things. Oh, I'm going days. Sorry about that, but this is how we want. So we want to go hours. Taurus rising sign. So this triple conjunction is in your first house. So for you, this is a massive reset in your identity house, really. You are the architect this month. People are looking to you for stability. But because this is your house of self, be careful not to get stuck in your ways. You have the power to define who you are for the rest of the year, really, or at least for the next 4 months. So make sure you are defining yourself by your last limitations. Gemini rising sign. This is happening in your 12th house. So this is the house of subconscious. So you might feel the need to retreat. That Aries noise has left you frazzled, most likely. This is a time to do your best work behind the scenes. Don't launch yet. I think plan. Use this energy to organize your mental clutter. Whatever is hidden, your doubts or your secret projects need to be brought into the light, and we have to be creating a system out of that. Cancer rising sign, this hits your house of community and long-term goals. So your dream from March needs now a team. So stop trying to do things alone. Look at your network. Who is actually nourishing your vision? Who is just taking up space? It's time to structure your social circles and make your professional aspiration very concrete. Leo rising sign, this is happening in your 10th house. So it lands right at the top of your chart, your career, your public reputation. So this is the moment to stop hustling and start building. So if you have been throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks, now it is actually the time to pick one strategy and make it rock solid. Your authority is being tested a little bit though. So lead with consistency, not just necessarily um, charisma. Obviously, with Pisces being on the eighth house cusp indicates that you started dreaming making money out of something. And now it's about making it visible and tangible. Virgo rising sign, this is happening in your ninth house. This is in your house of higher learning and philosophy. So you have been doing a lot of Aries now, and that's your eighth house, but you need to know why you are doing it. So this is a brilliant time to finalize a course, publishing project, or a travel plan, and maybe stop worrying about the details for a second. Look at the bigger picture. Does your daily routine match your long-term values? That might be one question that you want to ask yourself. Libra rising sign. This is happening in your eighth house. The activation of transformation and shared resources. This is about your debts, emotional, financial, energetic. So you might want to look at your joint accounts, your partner's finances, the emotional baggage you are carrying for others. So it's time to stop the leak, turn your shared resources into an investment rather than something that might drain you, because that can create chaos within us. Obviously, the Pisces cusp of your chart is the sixth house. So maybe this is a routine, like I would like to get something done on my body, or I would like to make money out of work opportunities also. Scorpio rising sign, this is happening in your seventh house, the house of partnership. So potentially you have been in a push-pull dynamic lately. I think the Aries energy made you want to fight, but Taurus wants to resolve. So this conjunction is a call for kind of like an agreement, a contractual matter. So if you are in business or relationship, define the rules, make the commitment tangible. Don't just talk about us. Let's just not do a handshake deal. Let's sign the paper or set certain type of boundaries. Clearly, this is going to be about your romantic life because the Pisces cusp of your chart is the fifth house, which is a representation of romance. Sagittarius rising sign, this is happening in your sixth house, the house of daily routines and health. So it feels like you have been scattered recently, but now you need a system. So this is the ultimate productivity transit for you. So if your schedule is a bit of a mess, this is when you have to fix it. It might ask you to stop multitasking, build a daily habit that actually feeds your body and your work as well. Your vitality highly dependent on the structure of a day of your life, basically. Obviously, the Pisces cusp is the fourth house for you. So you have planted the seeds there potentially by wanting to relocate, wanting to do certain type of renovation or heal connections with family members. And then now with the sixth house, we can actually get going. Capricorn rising, it is happening in your fifth house, the house of creativity, romance, self-expression. So you might have been working hard, but have you been having any fun lately? Because this might be a time to turn your hobbies into assets. If you're building a personal brand or starting a project, don't just wing it. Create a structure for that creative outlet so that it actually can generate results. It really feels like for you, Capricorn, you had an idea back in March, and then now we're going to have to start giving birth to it. Aquarius Rising, this is happening in your fourth house, the house of home and foundation. So maybe you have been living in your head a little bit, a lot of Aries noise, but now you need to ground yourself in your physical space. So reorganizing your home office, fixing certain type of literal or metaphorical leaks in your household, or set a new foundation for your family life. If your base is a bit shaky, your career goals might fail. Of course, this is going to be connected to finances somehow. So maybe in March, you decided to sell a property of yours. And maybe this is going to bring the results of that. And Pisces rising sign. So this is happening in your third house, the house of communication and local environment. So it feels like you have a lot to say, but are you saying it clearly? That could be a question. So this is the time to finalize your communication strategy, write a plan, send emails out, sign a contract. Don't get lost in the Pisces fog. Use this Taurus energy to make your ideas readable, practical, and useful. Maybe this is an idea about you wanting to heal your body, for example, or an idea about how you want to present yourself to the world. So, this is how we are going to be looking at these cycles. So, please remember that what really happens here is but you're trying to connect two house cusp in your chart. So for example, for Pisces is the first and the third house. So you planted the seeds in the first house and then the harvest is happening in the third house. Okay? Now, another thing that I would like to mention is that people who were born around 1983, actually, those will have a Chiron triggered with this triple conjunction because those people are going to have Chiron approximately around 22, 23 degree of Taurus. So therefore, it's a bit of a healing to be done there, depending on, of course, on the house position. It's just a special note that I'm making. Obviously, I cannot describe all planetary energies, but it kind of, like strike me in a way that if you were born in 1983, your natal Chiron is on 23 degree. So this means that the Sun, Mercury, and Ceres aren't just passing through your chart, uh, but they are lighting up that wounded healer point in your chart. So for those people, this isn't just about building or succeeding in the external sense. It's about auditing your internal definition of enough. For these people, this is a bit of a lingering story that I have to work extremely hard to make money, or I have to produce more, or I have to be useful, just to justify your value. Often these are some of the Taurus Chiron wounds, the belief that your value is tied to your tangible output. So now this triple conjunction coming there, and it says, Pretty much it says that you are worthy of sustenance just because you exist, not just because you produce something today. So use this energy to reparent your relationship with work and money. And if you find yourself obsessing over something, then you have to ask yourself, am I doing this to be safe or am I doing this to be happy? And that 1983 generation is being asked to heal the relationship between security and self-worth. I think most astrologers will talk about the money side of Taurus, of course, but we are just identifying here a psychological layer, the Chiron wound, for those people born in around 1983, because it's going to make it more personal and it's going to, yes, maybe it's money, but what my connection to money is. Don't forget that Ceres is the nourisher. So when it hits Chiron, it suggests that the medicine for this wound is not always logic or the ego, but self-care, a certain type of like structural support. So, well, not to mention that those people who were born around 2000, which means that you are a younger generation, then in that case, it really triggers your Saturn-Jupiter conjunction, which means that for those generations, it's going to be pretty much about coming up with a business model. And maybe it also brings a bit of a worry about, oh, how I'm going to survive, what's going to happen with certain type of elections or what is happening with money and finances and how to make money. Obviously, then it means that you are 26 years old, so you start thinking about having a family, right? Potentially you came out of, the family nest and then you have to pay the bills. So those people can get a little bit more on the worried side. But anyway, good luck everyone, and I will see you in my next video. Take care. Bye-bye.